Good morning. If the gentle sound of wind passing over that lonely reed didn't put you in the mood to be here this morning, nothing will. So thank you, Todd Milne, once again for getting us off to a beautiful start today with the gift of your talent and music. Also want to welcome Gordon Diddens, who is lay leading with us today. Thank you for being here. And Mika Lena Tyree is back on our piano. Looking forward to hearing you and glad that you're here. And hey, Deb Jackman is in the room with us as well. So it's a congregation of 5 on this side of the camera and a few hundred on that side. So welcome to all of you as well to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world, or as we say in short, and please say it with me, create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. As always, I want to embrace all that you bring with you this morning, all of your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences. They're all welcome with us this morning. So glad that you could join us. And this is so for those who hear us say this every Sunday, as well as those who may be joining us for the first time today. You're equally as welcome. And I'm very glad to be back after a couple of weeks off. This is the first time in my career I can honestly say I took the entire summer off. And that's because the entire summer lasted about a week, right? It was very hot while I was away, but yeah, nice time away anyway. So glad to be back. Not sure when we're going to be able to come back together again. I know folks are maybe looking at as far as a year out. That may be true, but I continue to watch the progress on vaccines and am encouraged that we will probably have a vaccine. My guess at the latest would be at the start of winter. And then it'll take some time, of course, to get those distributed. But I'm thinking we're going to start getting back to normal early into the new year rather than later, whatever the new normal is. So, I'm no expert, but I've been right on the progress so far, and I've been watching it closely. So that's my guesstimate that we'll start to see a vaccine go into action, probably no later than the early part of winter. So if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm confident enough to say so this morning. So hang in there. We're gonna get past this, and we're gonna be better for it. So in the meantime, we'll do our best to continue to create our community together, including by having a sort of virtual social hour, a period at the start of our service where we can greet one another through text messages, through email, through a brief phone call, whatever it might be. So please do take a few moments now to say hello to someone that you love. All right, well, I hope you got to say hello to someone. Someone said hello to you. If not, there's always more time following our service and, of course, throughout the week. It does us all good to continue to hear from each other. We're going to move forward now, however, by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion, of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need. And may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
Our opening reflection this morning is called Surrender and Letting Your Life Speak. The contrasts are striking. No versus yes, control versus surrender, willfulness versus willingness, holding on versus letting go. When we hold on, our hand is clenched. When we let go, our hand is open. Open to possibility, open to experience, open to wisdom, open to compassion, open to understanding, and open to life. The illusion is that we are in control when we are not, and it takes many lessons and much time to learn this hard truth. The Buddhists speak of the value of detachment. Some misunderstand this stance, thinking that it means not caring. In fact, detachment is an act of compassion, one that realizes that we cannot control the outcome. Open our hands and heart. As Joshua Kaufman observes, surrender is not giving up on life, but giving up fighting with life. And when you're not fighting with life, you're working with life.
Thank you, Gordon. We're now going to kindle our candles of care for those who are most on our hearts and minds, and Gordon, as usual, will kindle our candles for us here in the sanctuary. You can reflect on those at this time if you'd like. If you have some candles at home, you're welcome to light those as well. We want to begin with a candle for church members Eileen Starr and her husband John, who've tested positive for COVID and are both at Deaconess Hospital at this time. Also a candle for Joanne Bailey's son, Bill Bailey, who is now under hospice care at his home. Please keep Bill, Joanne, and Jan and their entire family in your thoughts at this time as well. And a candle for John and Kathy Luters, whose daughter and son-in-law are currently living in Beirut in the chaotic aftermath of the terrible recent explosion there. If you want to be of help, they suggest that you try donating directly to the Lebanese Red Cross. And also candles for Herb Bonello, Graham Taylor, and Pamela Comstock, as they remain under care as well. Let's take a moment of silence on behalf of others that you might be thinking of, and as always, you're welcome to name them aloud wherever you're at this time. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community with compassion. And we are now going to have our story for all ages. And it's going to take me just a couple of seconds to get it set up because I brought some extra guests with me today to help. This is a lesson that actually requires me to have 3 hands, but I'm only going to use 2, lest I prove what some have suspected, that I'm actually an alien from another planet. So I'll keep 1 hand to myself. In the meantime, for our closing song today, Deb is actually going to lead us in one that I'm guessing probably most, if not all of you, are familiar with, and that is Spirit of Life. So while I'm setting up here, if you don't have the lyrics, you could easily look at them on your cell phone or computer and bring them up so that you have them to sing along when the time comes. We're going to try to get our screen working soon, but it didn't work out this week, so it should be one that we can all sing together, though. Okay, let's see how this goes. Purple, it's great to have you back with us. How are you doing, Purple? Hey, buddy, how's it going? Purple, you seem a little bit distracted. What is it you're looking for?
I'm looking for my way.
You're looking for your way?
Yes, I've lost my way.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. You think you're going to find your way here at the Unitarian Universalist Church?
No, I lost my way here at the Unitarian Universalist Church.
Okay, well, I'm sorry. How did you lose it?
It was after listening to one of your sermons.
Okay, well, I guess that makes me a little bit responsible. Maybe I can help you find it. What exactly does your way look like?
I'm not sure. I never paid much attention until it was gone.
I see. Well, maybe we can take a look out in the Lost and Found afterwards, or put an announcement in our church newsletter and see if anyone else has found your way. Has anybody else mentioned it to you, Purple?
No, nobody has seen it.
Well, I'm so sorry about that. Let's see, we've got some friends here. Let's see if any of them might have seen your way. Why don't you stand up here? Very good. Okay. and we're going to try this. Let's see who we have here. Oh my goodness, this is tricky. Okay, it looks like we have Dog. Hello, Dog, how are you? Hello, I found a way. Well, what is your way? Well, my way is to wag my tail all the time, to play with everything I find, and to jump on everyone I meet. Okay, that's Purple. Does that sound like it might be your way?
No, it sounds like a lot of fun, but that's not exactly my way.
Okay, well, thank you, Dog, for helping us out here. Let's see who else has come to visit us today. Purple, why don't you give Raven a hug here before we get started? That's very, very sweet. You guys are big friends, obviously. Okay, so Raven, did you find a way? Yes, I found a way while I was in the cornfield. You found a way in the cornfield. Well, can you tell us a little bit about that way? It's a way of resting in the shade on a hot afternoon, sitting quietly in the trees, and always looking down to find something good to eat. Purple, did Raven find your way?
It sounds a little bit like my way, but that's not quite it either.
Well, let's see who else we have here. Oh, thank you, Raven. You're a big pal. Oh, my goodness. This is a familiar face. You'll want to give him a hug, too. Oh, good to see you guys care so much about each other. Okay, so Squirrel, did you find a way? Yes, I found a way while I was hunting for acorns. While you were hunting for acorns, well, what kind of way did you find? I found a way of growing entire forest by planting just one seed. That sounds like a great way. What do you think, Purple?
Well, it's not my way either, even though it sure sounds like a lot of fun.
Well, geez, this is getting tricky. Let's see. Oh, we've got one more special guest here. Let's see. It looks like Butterfly. Now, you don't want to hug Butterfly because you don't want to accidentally damage her beautiful wings. So, Butterfly, what kind of way did you find? I found a way after I awoke from my long nap. And what is your way like? It's always being willing to change my mind, to make the world more beautiful, and to make my dreams come true. What do you think, Purple?
Well, that's a good way too, but it's not my way.
Well, you know, Purple, people lose their way all the time, but that's okay because there are actually a lot of ways out there, as we have seen, and we don't have to settle for just one way. So maybe it's better to be open to a lot of ways.
You mean sometimes I can have a way of playing like Dog, and a way of looking down like Raven?
You can.
And a way of planting seeds like Squirrel?
Yes.
And a way of changing things like Butterfly?
That's absolutely it. All those ways and more belong to you as long as you keep your mind open and keep searching.
Now I remember what my way is.
Well, what is it?
My way is lots of ways.
Very good, Purple. That sounds like a great way to live. In that case, we're going to let you go for today, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I invite you now into a time of meditation. Adjust your position so you are comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish. Relax with a slow, deep breath. And reflect on these words from Osho. The essential surrender happens within you. It has nothing to do with anybody outside you. The basic surrender is a relaxation, a trust. So don't be misguided by the word. Linguistically, surrender means to surrender to somebody, but religiously, surrender simply means trust, relaxing. It is an attitude rather than an act. You live through trust.
Before our reading today, I'm going to help my friends back into their tote bag here. There it is. And I'm going to read a little piece from the back of our hymnal that is a favorite of mine. Since I'm going to be talking about ethics today, I think this epitomizes a nice sort of ethic. This is from Amos, from the Hebrew Scriptures. I despise your festivals, and I take no delight in your solemn assemblies. Even though you offer me your burnt offerings, I will not accept them. And the offerings of well-being of your fatted animals, I won't even look at them. Take away from me the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the melody of your harps. But let justice roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Thank you, Michelina. Great to have you back playing with us. Thank you. Michelina says she's happy to be here. My sermon title this morning is The Basis of Ethics. What is yours? And it's the first in what I'm calling Perennial Problems Series, sort of a late summer series of sermons I'll be giving over the next several weeks, using philosophy to explore questions like ethics, reality, truth, meaning, and reason or thinking. How we respond to these questions is fundamental to the way we live our lives. Though none of them can ever be wholly answered. Understanding the difference between right and wrong, grasping reality, knowing what's true, discovering and pursuing our own meaning and purpose, and thinking well, I'm guessing you would agree, are essential to most everything we do. Yet how many of us have ever considered these recurring problems with intention? How many have explored them deeply enough that we can thoughtfully go out and explain the reasons justifying our daily, if not momentary, behaviors rooted in our personal beliefs about ethics, reality, truth, meaning, and reason? Most, I suspect, have never intentionally explored these matters, let alone repeatedly, given that they are perennial questions that we ought repeatedly ask ourselves, of ourselves and others. This is so because our societies prefer to provide the answers for us, beginning as early as possible in our lives, and discourages us from questioning them through both positive and negative reinforcement. Every child begins life as a philosopher by incessantly asking that primal, hallowed question that must proceed and follow all of our answers. Why? They need to know the reasons for things. We come into this world needing to know the reasons for things. We want explanations. If they are lucky enough to hear, I don't know, from the adults around them, more often than stop asking so many questions, or simply, because I said so, they may keep and foster their innate philosophical nature. If not, they will need to and hopefully rediscover the lost questions of their enforced and reinforced answers. That's why the titles of each message in this series includes the question, what is yours? It's not a question asking you to explain what you believe about ethics, reality, truth, meaning, and reason. Not asking what you believe. It's asking you to explain and justify the reasons for your beliefs about these important areas. Their basis. Any fool can spontaneously express one's beliefs about a whole variety of matters that one has never thought about before. But philosophizing requires that we go deeper by asking that hallowed question most of us lost early on. Why? Why do you believe what you do? Why do you think it's true? Why? The fool may provide an eloquent and certain-sounding explanation of what she or he believes, but will likely sound the fool when laid bare before the divine why. The fool then stammers and struggles for inadequate explanations that thoughtlessly spill from flapping lips that are only making it up as they go along. For it is not only money, as the old adage goes, but the fool's own lips that are soon parted. As Abraham Lincoln is claimed to have said, better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. I do not mean to jest about jesters, but our society has become foolish. So the word is apropos. We have a fool in the White House, resulting from foolish voters who for more than a generation have gotten foolish information from foolish pundits dressed as journalists on faux news and BSNBC. The 24-hour news cycle requires them to keep flapping their jaws even when they've run out of things to say, even when they don't know what they're talking about. So they resort instead to innuendo, ad hominem insults, personal opinions, and personal outrage, along with speculation and mind-reading to deflect viewers from recognizing the obvious. They don't have the objective facts necessary for us to draw our own conclusions rather than relying upon their foolish opinions. Today we live in a foolish, this I believe society in which it is enough just to believe without explaining why we believe. In our postmodern world, all truth is considered subjective, while science, reason, and facts are being discarded by those of all ideological persuasions to the dustbins of history. The President of the United States has no shame in publicly praising the medical advice of a charlatan who believes illnesses are caused by having sex with witches and demons in our dreams, and that alien DNA is being used to manufacture medicine, rather than just admitting he's been wrong about the health benefits of drinking bleach. On the other end of the political spectrum, foolish illiberals who fancy themselves social justice warriors have decided that all opinions are equal, which, as an issue of equality, means the right of every person to have their unchallenged opinion must now be protected from any criticism coming from anyone with a different opinion. Even in Unitarian Universalism, once the world's most liberal religion, we increasingly hear those positioning themselves to be our church authorities telling us not to ask questions of marginalized people's marginalized beliefs because doing so is microaggressive, harmful, tiring, and oppressive. And with no more shame than Trump's boast about receiving medical advice from a witch doctor, they are openly denouncing logic and free speech as classic forms of injustice and oppression. In other words, stop asking why. Because I said so. In light of this tragic milieu, the philosophical crisis our nation and much of our world is in today, I've decided it is my ethical responsibility to help reawaken the suppressed inner philosopher within those willing to listen, by asking you to examine the basis of your own responses to the perennial questions of life, and to consider it the basis, if that basis is sound and worthy of maintaining, or if a philosophical readjustment might be necessary. And what better problem to begin with than this question of ethics? How do you know the difference between right and wrong? What is the basis of your morality? Is it based upon what someone else told you long ago? Is it based upon beliefs you discovered on your own, but have not since honestly questioned? Is it based upon what others expect of you and your fear of being ostracized? When the going gets tough, do your ethics get going, or do you look to see what everyone else is doing? Do you cling stubbornly to the strict rules you've been taught, no matter the outcome? Or do you figure out what outcome you hope for, then simply adjust your moral decisions to fit the situation? We don't usually examine the basis of our ethics by asking such questions because most of us react unconsciously to the events around us, justifying our moral decisions with whatever reasons we can think of as we go along. Developmental psychology tells us that there are 3 stages of moral growth, described by Lawrence Kohlberg, for example, as the pre-conventional, during which our morality is based on simple dualistic extremism. Black and white, hot and cold, right and wrong, thinking that is punitive and authoritarian. Morality that is based on what an outside authority dictates to us and whether or not we will be punished for violating its dictums. If we don't get stuck or fixated at this earliest and most immature moral stage, and there are an awful lot of adults, people in positions of power, obviously, that are stuck at this stage, which should normally end, by the way, about the time we get through kindergarten, then perhaps we can move on. This can lead this conventional to the conventional stage, I should say, during which our moral senses are based on the expectations and rules of those around us, right? We start as kindergartners to learn to take turns, to have our share, to share with one another. So that's the beginning of the conventional stage, which is why the root of the word moral, by the way, is mores, which refers to rules, conventions. And this can lead to a strict law and order society, but also to an egalitarian and cooperative society, a do unto others as you would have them do unto you society. But social conventions can become damaging if they aren't fairly applied to everyone, which is often the case. This leads to the final stage of moral development, the post-conventional, in which morality is based on categorical imperatives and principles that are to be pursued in all circumstances and situations so that no one is left out of their benefits, friend or foe, majority or minority. Freedom, justice, compassion are among those all-encompassing principles our morality might be based on at this stage. And that's the best that can happen if we rely purely upon unconscious processes, although there is much to get in the way of achieving our fullest moral potential, not the least of which is that society itself depends upon our compliance as citizens, our compliance to mores, to customs, laws, and conventions. So we are culturally pressured to base our morals on the expectations of others, on doing what is expected of us if we want to fit in and remain part of the tribe, if we're fortunate enough not to be excluded from the tribe to begin with. Even worse, often those conventions remain rooted in that dualistic, punitive, authoritarian instinct of the most immature kind of moral thinking. As a result, most people, I should say, will have trouble getting past stages 1 and 2 to ever achieve their fullest moral potential. So it's best not to leave our moral development to unconscious forces when social forces are determined to keep us from achieving our best. We need to be responsible for our moral decisions by remaining conscious of our moral positions and understand our reasons for them. Why? And this is where philosophy comes in, because philosophy has been consciously and intentionally exploring the meaning and nature of morality for more than 2,000 years, beginning with Socrates, who first shifted its emphasis from physics to ethics. As A.C. Grayling explains in The History of Philosophy, Socrates was prompted by the indecisive, indeed fruitless quest to know reality, a waste of energy when the far more important question of how one should live goes unanswered. And as I've been arguing, it goes unanswered because it usually goes unasked to begin with. True to Socrates' style, he never adequately answered the question, which is perfectly fine because the whole point of philosophy, at its core, is asking that hallowed question: why? Rather than going through life with a false sense of certainty, causing us to think and act delusionally, philosophy reopens our minds to the wonder of living. As Bertrand Russell once said, in philosophy, what is important is not so much the answers that are given, but rather the questions that are asked. Nevertheless, many philosophers since Socrates have asked and attempted to answer his question about how one should live, about the examined life. His student Plato had a somewhat conventional idea of ethics inasmuch as he asked, what is the best kind of life and the best kind of society, as one question. I won't go into more detail other than to add that Plato, like many philosophers to this day, defined humans as social animals, which means whatever we do, especially our ethics, is always tied to our relationship with and responsibility toward others. Plato's famous student, Aristotle, answered his teacher's question by determining the best kind of society is one whose individual members live the best kind of lives. The best kind of society is one whose individual members live the best kind of lives. That may sound straightforward enough, but if you really consider its meaning, it implies that a healthy society is based upon strong, autonomous, contented individuals. It's not a society based on conventional groupthink, but upon the humanistic ethic of freedom and fulfillment. The best kind of society is one whose individual members live the best kind of lives. Aristotle considered the highest good eudaimonia, the Greek word meaning good spirit, usually translated as happiness, but as Grayling points out, it is more accurately translated as well-being or flourishing. Eudaimonia, flourishing. In other words, an ethical society is a society in which individuals are flourishing. It's a two-way street. We are social creatures, which means we are ethically responsible for the welfare of others and our communities, but it also means our society is responsible for our well-being. A society in which all of its citizens don't have real opportunities to flourish as individuals is an unethical society, is an immoral society. These days, in my own ethical evolution, I'm more aligned with the Stoics, who were inspired by Socrates' emphasis upon the virtues of wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance or moderation. Stoicism emerged about the same time as cynicism and Epicureanism, when a depressed and disenfranchised post-war Athenian society wanted to know the secret to eudaimonia, the secret to happiness, the secret to flourishing again. The Cynics believed it would be achieved through asceticism, not simply through austerity and self-denial, but by living as naturally as possible in the wild, like other animals. Cynicism comes from the Greek word meaning dog. It meant living like a dog, or perhaps a dog that has freed itself from its domesticated existence and is no longer led about on the leash of another master. Epicureanism, in contrast, argued pleasure is the secret to achieving eudaimonia, but not in the eat, drink, and be merry sense we think of today, but by achieving higher pleasures, friendship, reason, and empiricism being among the very greatest pleasures. Even the revered Stoic philosopher and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, though far from a hedonist, valued Epicurus' teaching about tolerating pain. Given both philosophers lived for a time with near chronic pain before their illnesses killed them. As Donald Robertson writes in How to Think Like a Roman Emperor, although he was in poor health, Epicurus did not complain or dwell on his symptoms. In fact, he used his illness as an opportunity to converse in a dispassionate manner about how the mind can remain contented while the body suffers terrible pain and discomfort. He simply carried on doing what he loved, what brought him pleasure, discussing philosophy with his friends. So it's inaccurate to let our cultural prudishness and 2,000 years of inherited Catholic guilt lead us to misjudge Epicureanism, also called hedonism, as the mere gratification of physical appetites. Even so, Stoicism stands out as unique in its moral response to the quest for human flourishing, for eudaimonia. Unlike Buddha, who faced this same dichotomy between asceticism and aestheticism, austerity and indulgence, to finally settle on the middle way, all things in moderation, the Stoics said that morality has nothing to do with the avoidance of pain or the pursuit of pleasure. Pain and pleasure are indifferent, so long as avoiding or pursuing either doesn't prevent us from living according to our virtues. Those things like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance that make life worth living. So long, as philosopher Massimo Pigliucci says, doing so does not compromise one's integrity of character. And that's an important point. For until now, I've been using the terms ethics and morality almost interchangeably, but they are not synonymous at all. Ethics is the umbrella under which our morality dwells. Morality, as in mores, refers to the external customs, rules, duties, etiquette, etc., that we adhere to as citizens and as ethical persons. Ethics, on the other hand, from the Greek word ethos, means character. Our ethics reflect who we are on the inside, a consistency we demonstrate whatever our circumstances, whether we are alone or in public. Morality is what we do, ethics is who we are. Morality is behavioral, our ethics, our character is that which drives our behavior, that which guides our behavior. So when you think about the basis of your ethics, understand you are thinking about something integral to who you are. Determining your ethics is about determining who you are going to be in this world. Without ethics, without character, that is, our decisions and behaviors are random and inconsistent and without integrity. The Stoics believed, as Robertson says, foolish people vacillate, driven by contradictory passions which flutter from one thing to another like butterflies. Rather than developing an ethic which, again, is developing a quality character, they rely on what Bertrand Russell called emotivism, when one's ethical judgments are merely disguised expressions of one's feelings about an issue, which again flutter about inconsistently. The rationalization of our emotional responses. Stoic ethics, on the contrary, remain the same no matter what the circumstances we're in, or what the outcome may be for us personally, pleasurable or painful. Doing what we believe is right, even in the face of adversity and at our own personal expense, doesn't matter. We must be indifferent to those concerns. And at the very start of my book, The Gadfly Papers, I write, I must say what I believe is true and do what I believe is right, even if I'm wrong, and even if doing so isn't going to be fun. I was writing as a Stoic. Since Stoicism, philosophy has given much else to ponder about ethics, but it all breaks down to two kinds of thinking: deontological and teleological. Big words, I'll explain. Kant's categorical imperative is a good example of deontological ethics, referring to something we must do in all circumstances, no matter what. This does not, however, refer to simple rules, like always obey the law, or thou shalt not lie. As we have seen throughout history, sometimes disobedience itself is imperative in the face of injustice, particularly unjust laws. If we're not careful, deontology can be reduced to a rigid and oppressive legalism. A categorical imperative, rather, is based on a universal principle, akin to what the developmentalists were getting at when discussing fully evolved morality being based on things like truth, justice, and compassion. Erich Fromm's humanistic ethic is a good example. The sole criterion of ethical value being human welfare, and that the unfolding and growth of every person should be the aim of all social and political activities. That's the humanistic ethic as a categorical imperative. Teleological ethics, from the Greek word end, are a kind of consequentialism, meaning that our moral decisions are based on outcomes, often criticized as the ends justify the means. But as my philosophy professor Wallace Roark used to ask, if the ends don't justify the means, what does? Which I'm sure he got from Joseph Fletcher's situational ethics, because he asked the same question. If the ends don't justify the means, what does? Surely the consequences of our decisions matter, especially in regard to how they impact the welfare of others, which gets us back to Kant's categorical imperative and Fromm's humanistic ethic. If we're not careful, teleological ethics can descend into anarchy. For me, the problem of ethics can thus be reduced to one question. Are we to do the right thing or the best thing? Are we to do the right thing or the best thing? Are we to always follow the rules no matter the consequences, or are we to do what brings about the best outcome, even if it is the lesser of two evils? This is why, in the end, deontology and teleology are circular. Where we start on the circle doesn't matter as much as the character who embarks upon the ethical journey. But keep in mind that as you embark around its circumference, your ethics should evolve and change, because the problem of ethics is a perennial one and can thus never be wholly resolved. It's a question that you must keep asking yourself. Questioning our values, our morals, our ethics is never a settled matter, but a way of life that should make our lives and the lives of those around us better in the process. Determining the basis of our ethics is ongoing, None of us can know for sure what we are doing, that what we are doing is the right thing, which is why we must respect and listen to those who differ with us on ethical issues, even if we persist in doing what we believe is best. What more can we do? What more can we do? The Roman Stoic philosopher Seneca the Younger once said, "So long as you remain in ignorance of what to aim at and what to avoid, what is essential and what is superfluous, what is upright or honorable conduct and what is not, you will not be traveling, but drifting." The question of ethics, of our character, is too valuable to simply drift through life without asking, exploring, and responding to. The basis of ethics. What is yours?
Well, I haven't seen many of you for so long. It's good to be here, even if your faces and bodies are not. I'm imagining you in my mind. We're going to be singing Spirit of Life. Many of you know these words, even if you might miss a couple along the way. We will sing it twice through, the first time in a rather contemplative way, and the second time with a little more energy. Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart of the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Breathe to me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me. Come to me, Spirit of life, come unto me, sing in my heart of the stirrings of compassion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our closing benediction, hear the words, simple words of James Arthur Ray. Control is never achieved when sought after directly. It is a surprising outcome of letting go. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.
Shalom, Haverim, Shalom.